The next project I have for this 2004 Moomba Mobius that I bought end of last season is Perfect Pass. So this is the Inmar Assault 5.7 liter engine with a TBI throttle body injection. I thought I'd already loosened that. Oh, it is. Most of this project I'm not too concerned with. Most of it seems pretty easy and straightforward, other than maybe fishing the cable from the dash area back to the engine. That's the only part I may need to get a fish tape for, or be somewhat creative. So this is the throttle linkage we need to disconnect. There and there. And then I believe we'll be installing the Perfect Pass servo module in this area. Now the question is, will I be able to get through this without dropping any tools or nuts in the hull of the boat? We'll see. Oh, we just lost a lock washer. All right, that's disconnected. I believe we have to disconnect this. All right, that's disconnected. Now to install the servo module. Now on initial inspection, it appears there's a fair amount of extra length and cable on the servo here. So I'm gonna start by mounting it quite a bit off to the left. You do leave it loose so you can adjust it later, but it sure looks like it's gonna be all the way over to the left, which will also leave plenty of room for closing your engine compartment. So anytime I'm using hose clamps, I like to use one of these 6-in-1 screwdrivers that doubles as a nut driver, and they're quite handy for hose clamps. I'm sure I'm gonna be able to do this one-handed, but I'm gonna give it a try. No luck. So this looks like a good starting position for the servo module. And if I do end up running it through that eye there, which is probably an engine hoist point, I'll put a grommet in there if it looks like it's rubbing. But, that sure looks like it might put us in about the right place. So next is to connect this linkage. So we need to remove the end of this. So we just need to loosen this jam nut. And remove the connector on the end. Connector on the end of the cable going to the servo motor just threads right on there. Then I'll use that same jam nut to tighten that back on. The key here is to remove this last nut and then slide the cable through that notch, put this through, and then put that nut back on. Like that. There we go. Now I adjusted it so that there is no gap or exposed cable between the end of that fitting and the end of this male fitting and the end of this female fitting. At least that's what I understand from the instructions as far as what you're supposed to do. So it's in neutral, and I think this is positioned properly, so I can tighten these two nuts down. Now I just need to tighten down these hose clamps. Just close the engine cover to make sure that there's no interference. Not going to tighten these too much since that is just a rubber hose that will collapse as you tighten it, so I think that should suffice. So that concludes step 1, which is installing the servo motor, connecting the throttle linkage. On to the next step. I did end up moving the servo module. I had it over there to the left, I moved it over to the right. I'd had it over there to decrease the bend in the throttle cable, but it was going underneath the front of this engine cover, and that just wasn't working, and it was pushing up against this, and you're not supposed to allow it to rub on there. It still rubs through the range of motion. It still rubs on this some, but I think I'll just take a little notch out of this right in this area just to make sure it's not rubbing on that with each cycle, so it doesn't start wearing on that cable or over time. So that's what we did there. Now on to the next step. So I didn't record much of the next step of this project because there was just way too much cussing and it was just embarrassing. That was fishing the wires through the hole. So on this Moomba Mobius, all the wires go actually come up through the hole in front of the bulkhead on the driver's side, and that's where they go, come up, and then go to the cockpit area. So, of course, you can't, the only way is to fish it from this end and push the fish tape to the other end, because you're not going to be able to catch the fish tape coming from the other end to here. So I tried that first with a piece of cable, because that's what I had. I got it stuck in there. It had a ferrule on the end, and it's stuck in there. So then I borrowed a fish tape, and I got my friend's fish tape stuck in there. I didn't have any luck fishing it all the way through and catching it on the other end. So on my third or fourth attempt, it got stuck in there, and it was stuck in there for literally a day or so. And then eventually just reefed on as hard as I could and eventually come loose. So hopefully I didn't damage anything in there, any wires or hoses or anything. So I ended up running wires through here, through the ski locker. I cut a hole, actually I drilled 2 holes and then connected them with one of these miserable oscillating tools here that I can't stand. So I was able to basically cut a notch just big enough to fit the connector on the cockpit end right here. So I drilled a couple holes, and then connected them, ran this wire through there. There was already a hole in the floor under here that wasn't being used, so that's what I was able to use. Did it just unfortunately connected to the ski locker, and but I think by running the wires kind of high in the ski locker, they should be out of harm's way. So that's the plan. And so when I quit working on that part because I was getting frustrated, I ended up taking out the speedometer. And I also took out the adjustment knob, which will leave a hole there. I did that because I sort of wanted a spare speedometer, and I didn't want to cut the wires to this knob in order to put it back in there. So for now, I just pulled it out. I will try to find something to plug that hole. That's where we're at on that end. So the next step is to connect the wires on this end. Easy enough, just connect those and then tie down the wires and secure them with zip ties and all that good stuff. And then we'll move on to the rest of the components that go in the cockpit area, the actual head unit and the, what is it called here? The master module. So I need to find a place to mount this, and shouldn't be too much left that's difficult now that I got through the worst part. I literally spent hours screwing around with trying to fish those wires, and I had nothing but troubles. I sure wish that Moomba would have ran those wires through a PVC pipe or something. That would have made life a lot better, but there was all kinds of things down there to snag whatever you're fishing it with. So I just gave up. So I think I did come with a decent solution. Hopefully it works out. Okay, there's the master module mounted. And then let's see, over here I have the 3-wire plug that manages, let's see here, actually it's over here. The 3-wire plug that takes care of power, ground, and RPM, I believe. So that should plug right into a provided connector. So next is to install the head unit in the speedometer location. I think that's gonna look really good with the stock gauges. Nice. After installing this, I decided that it might be a good idea to reuse this ring that was on the speedometer. That will help hold this in place and give this something to push up against. So I'll put that speedometer back through, slide that in from the back side, and then install this. I took this 2 screws out of the top of the dash and then hooked the wires underneath for the GPS module. I can't say that I love having that wire coming out of there, but I'd rather make sure it works. My understanding is you can put it up underneath the dash and it'll work through the fiberglass, but I want to make sure, so I went ahead and did that. All right, I got all the wiring wrapped up, which is quite a bit of it. I did a short run for the cable going to the servo, since I made a shorter route to than originally planned, so there's lots of extra cable there, but got her all cleaned up that I don't think it'll be falling down into our way. And then on the servo unit itself, there's no great place to secure those wires. So I just secured this bunch with a zip tie, and then here I used one of those zip ties designed for screwing the wire loom to surface of some sort. So I used that, put that on there, and then zip tied this to that. So it kind of secures it, but nothing's actually touching the water line there. That's gonna get warm. So this shouldn't be bounced around too much, well supported, ready to go. So now we're going to turn the key on and see what happens. Hopefully you can see that okay. Oh, initial hours. We're at 525 hours. Looks like almost 526. So. That display is moving really slow. Looks like an LCD. It's maybe it's because it's cold out. We're in the 40s here. Come on, you can do it. We're almost there. 526, come on. So read in mile per hour, yes. Okay, the servo is just got done tensioning the cable. I think we should be good to go. I'm excited to get this out and get her set up. So at this point it says no GPS lock. It can take a little bit for that to happen, and I don't know if I'm assuming it would still work in my shop here, but I'm not gonna wait for that. We'll get this finished setting this up when we're out in the water and set some wake surf and wakeboard speeds and get her dialed in.